LEX 18 News.
Downed trees and power lines made for a messy evening across central Kentucky. We're learning more about the victim of a fatal crash earlier today in Georgetown. And a Lexington couple concerned about tornadoes builds a storm shelter named in honor of a certain LEX 18 chief meteorologist.
LEX 18 News at 11 starts now.
Good evening, I'm Adam Weiner in for Nikki Burdine. Thanks for joining us. Strong storms moved through Kentucky earlier tonight, leaving behind downed trees and power lines. And here's a look at some of the damage in Lexington. It's the focus of tonight's LEX 18 Big Story at 11.
Boom, crinkling, and all of a sudden we heard a crash.
Just after 6 on Sunday, Thomas Warner's evening went from quiet to a lot more exciting. He lives on 7th Street in Lexington and says he was surprised by what he saw when he went outside.
Boom! I mean, it was a big crash sound, and all of a sudden it was crinkling, and you can hear it hit the houses. I mean, it sounded like it was right in my backyard.
A large tree had fallen on a neighboring house. The good part, no one was home and no one hurt.
Yeah, at the time, I'm glad they just moved out. They just moved out probably last week.
Of course, that wasn't the only damage around Lexington. On Leestown Road, for instance, 2 vehicles crashed while trying to avoid debris in the road. And over on Shady Lane off Nicholasville Road, a large tree fell, causing a power line to break. Lexington police and Kentucky Utilities were on the scene cleaning up the mess. Back on 7th Street, Warner says he's glad the damage wasn't any worse.
The landlord went inside and checked the house. He said, good, it didn't come inside of it. But I told him, I said, if it sits there any much longer, it's going to come down. No, it's going to come on down through her. So he's supposed to have somebody come out and calms down and we'll cut it down. So I'm just glad there was nobody in the home.
Yeah, and we did have some strong storms move through earlier this evening. The good news is, though, everything's starting to quiet down. Taking a look at the Max Track Live Doppler, the only showers left and a few rumbles of thunder are in very far southeastern Kentucky, stretching all the way from Pike County down towards McCreary County and Wayne County. There's a couple of, you can see some thunder or lightning strikes rather in our very far southern counties, but these are all going to be diminishing. We've lost daytime heating, and they're all going to be pushing towards the east. So that is the good news. But we still do have one aerial flood advisory for Park counties, parts of Floyd County, and these are going to be continued until 11:30 tonight. Like I said, we did have some very scary looking storms out there. Some trees down. You can see a shelf cloud sent in from Amy Hart Sublet. This was near the I-65, I-75 interchange. But there's also some good to the bad weather that we saw. We have a beautiful picture of a double rainbow. I don't know if you can see the second rainbow. I had quite a few photos sent in. This one's from Mike Cloud in Lexington. So a bigger picture, we still have more rain that we're going to have to get through, and it's going to take a couple of days. Most of us are sitting in partly to mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures, they're pretty cool. We have rain, cooled air in the area. Through the rest of the overnight hours and into the day tomorrow, we're going to start the day fairly quiet, but we are going to have another round of showers and thunderstorms in the afternoon. I'll have your complete details in your Storm Tracker forecast coming up in a few minutes.
And anytime severe weather moves through our area, you can follow along online at lex18.com. We always post the latest forecast, watches, and warnings. And don't forget to download our free Storm Tracker weather app for your smartphone. For the second time in 2 days, there's been a fatal crash involving a red light runner, and it's on the same stretch of a Scott County road. In both cases, the driver has been arrested. LEX 18's Adam Yosem has the story from Georgetown.
This was a trip in Tennessee.
She can't help but smile
Acting a little goofy there.
as she shows us pictures
This is him and his brother.
of her nephew, Philip.
He's a big boy, I'm telling you.
A big boy, this aunt says, who was big-hearted.
I always called him Jethro.
And then
Just keep waiting for him to just come in the driveway, so.
heartbreak sets in
I was told he was on his way home,
again.
and he had McDonald's sitting in his lap.
Georgetown police say 28-year-old Philip Burgess Jr. was in the passenger seat. The driver, investigators say, Johnny Ray Allen, sitting at a red light on Lemons Mill Road. A light that was still red when a pickup truck came down the Georgetown bypass. A light that was still red when police say Johnny Ray Allen drove into the intersection.
We suspect that there's alcohol involvement.
The Scott County coroner told us Burgess died of blunt force trauma to his upper body. The collision happened Saturday, just several minutes before midnight, the family not finding out for several more hours. Teresa says Philip didn't have his ID on him, but what he did have was his brother's name tag.
We all actually got us one, and he wore it every single day, every day.
An Army name tag. Philip's brother Nathan now coming home from overseas.
That's a hard thing to hear, you know, all the way in Afghanistan, to hear your brother's been killed.
Killed at an intersection Teresa passes by every day. For a little bit, she says she'll be taking a different route because of an accident that, for her,
This was a fun trip.
is just too hard
It was a good trip.
to picture. Covering the news in Scott County, Adam Yosem, LEX 18 News.
Police charged Johnny Ray Allen with DUI and second-degree manslaughter in that crash. Meanwhile, a ministry student is facing reckless homicide charges in connection with Friday's fatal accident in Georgetown. Police say 22-year-old Tyler Knipple was driving a church van when he ran a red light on McClellan Circle, striking a car driven by 49-year-old Vicki Carol Lynch. Lynch died in the crash. Knipple is a ministry student from Wisconsin. His group, Minutemen Ministries, was visiting the Bluegrass Baptist Church in Georgetown. Two men are facing charges after a crash involving a motorcycle this evening. Police say 19-year-old James Woolfolk tried to flee from the scene of an accident last night and then fought with police when they went to talk to him. Woolfolk's friend Adrian Black had just driven a motorcycle into a car on South Broadway in Lexington. Black is charged with DUI and operating on a suspended license and was hurt in the crash. Woolfolk also faces multiple charges. To northern Kentucky, where an investigation is underway after a body was pulled from the Ohio River. Investigators in Boone County received a 911 call around 3 for the report of a body floating in the Ohio River. Boone County Water Rescue deployed a boat and recovered the body near the Villa Hills Marina. Police haven't said if the person died as a result of an accident or foul play. The person's identity hasn't yet been released. A private jet carrying former President George W. Bush on board made an emergency landing in Louisville last night. The Federal Aviation Administration says Sunday that the jet was flying from Philadelphia to Dallas, where Bush lives. The FAA says the plane was diverted to Louisville after the smell of smoke was reported in the cockpit. No one was hurt, and a Bush spokesperson says after a brief stop, the plane continued on to Dallas. Firefighters in Laurel County say they were able to quickly put out a mobile home fire today. Happened at around noon in the Keavy community. Officials say when they got to the scene, the mobile home was engulfed in heavy flames, but they were able to put out the fire in a short time. No one was home at the time of the fire and no one was hurt. You know, we may not live in Tornado Alley, but Kentucky sure has seen its fair share of severe weather. With that in mind, one Lexington family has decided to be a bit proactive, building a tornado shelter right in their own backyard. LEX 18's Macy Insko has their story.
Go on, Callie.
Come on.
It's something they hope they never have to use.
Power light. Got a radio and a weather radio. Survival kit from Kentucky.
Without a basement in their home, Joe and Ann Katz have found themselves running over to their neighbors' homes during severe weather to seek shelter. But they won't have to do that anymore.
Talked about it and cost-wise and would it be worth it, et cetera, and after Oklahoma, we definitely decided we wanted to do something.
The couple, along with their dog Callie, now have their own shelter that was installed in just one day.
They brought it down from Indiana. This unit is made in Illinois, and the dealer is in Indiana. He brought it down in a pickup truck, and then they brought another truck with a small backhoe on it, and the whole process took about 4 hours.
And they've even given their room a very nice name.
We watch Bill Mick and we trust him, and when he says there's a storm coming, it's coming. So we decided to call it the Bill Mick room, and we're hoping for an autographed picture that we can put down there of Bill Mick.
Covering the news in Lexington, Macy Insko, LEX 18 News.
Well, we'll have to talk to Bill about that autograph soon. Well, I had people rush to help after a crash last night in Texas, but the Good Samaritans became the victims after another vehicle plowed into them. Details coming up in just a few minutes on LEX 18 News at 11.